The lecture hall of the Galactic Institute fell into an uneasy silence when the door hissed open mid-sentence. Professor Lyra Hensley paused, her chalk hovering above the holographic board where she'd been explaining Earth's ancient philosophy of compassion. Every set of eyes, compound, crystalline, and bioluminescent, turned toward the entrance. A small shape limped through the doorway. Tar was barely the size of a human child, but his species, the Vorkai, were apex predators from the jungle moon of Cathara Prime. Even as a cub, his six-legged form rippled with developing muscle beneath midnight blue fur. 3 rows of needle-sharp teeth lined his jaw, and his 4 eyes could track prey through the densest foliage. But right now those eyes were clouded with pain, and his left hind leg dragged uselessly behind him, leaving a thin trail of violet blood across the polished floor. The Calthene students, themselves towering reptilians with venomous claws, pressed themselves against the far wall. The insectoid Trixla clicked their mandibles in alarm and retreated to the ceiling corners. Even the crystalline luminari dimmed their inner light, making themselves less visible. Everyone knew what an injured Vorkai meant. Where there was a cub, the pack was never far behind, and an injured cub meant a pack in hunting mode, ready to tear apart anything they perceived as a threat to their young. Everyone knew this except, apparently, the human. Professor Lyra Hensley set down her chalk with a soft click and walked toward the cub. Her movements were slow, deliberate, but without the fear scent that every other species in the room was now producing. The atmosphere grew thick with tension. Several students activated their personal emergency beacons, preparing for the inevitable massacre. "Easy there, little one," Lyra said softly, her voice carrying that strange melodic quality that humans possessed. She crouched down, making herself smaller, less threatening. "Let's take a look at that leg, shall we?" Tar's ears flattened against his skull. His lips curled back, revealing those infamous teeth. A low growl rumbled from his chest, a sound that had made evolutionary biologists describe the Vorkai as nature's perfect killing machines. Lyra didn't flinch. Instead, she sat down completely, crossing her legs in what her students had learned was called a meditation pose. She extended one hand, palm up, and simply waited. The growling continued for several heartbeats. Then impossibly it softened. Tar took one limping step forward, then another. His nostrils flared, taking in her scent, that peculiar human smell that most species found strangely comforting, though none could explain why. "That's it," Lyra murmured. "I'm not going to hurt you. Let me help." The cub moved closer, close enough that his breath, hot and carrying the scent of raw meat, washed over her face. For a moment, predator and human locked gazes. Then, with a small whimper that sounded heartbreakingly vulnerable, Tar collapsed against her lap. The classroom collectively held its breath. Lyra's hands moved with practiced gentleness over the injured leg. The wound was deep, likely from a territorial dispute or a fall from the canopy training grounds where young Vorkai learned to hunt. The bone wasn't broken, but the torn muscle needed immediate attention. "Does anyone have a medical kit?" she asked calmly, as if she weren't currently cradling an apex predator in her lap. A Trixla student, trembling so hard its carapace rattled, extended a manipulator limb with a standard emergency kit. Lyra took it with a smile of thanks and began working. She cleaned the wound with antiseptic, her fingers deft and sure. Tar whimpered but didn't pull away. If anything, he pressed closer, seeking the warmth of her body. "Humans are insane," someone whispered in Galactic Common. "Humans are kind," someone else corrected quietly. As Lyra wrapped the leg in a pressure bandage, applying a dose of universal pain medication, the doors at the rear of the lecture hall opened again. This time the entire class evacuated to the walls. 6 full-grown Vorkai entered. Each stood over 3 meters tall at the shoulder. Their fur was battle-scarred, their claws extended. The pack moved as one fluid unit, their 4 eyes fixed on the human who held their injured cub. The lead female, clearly the matriarch, had mandibles that could crush steel, and she advanced with the lethal grace of a missile locked onto target. Professor Lyra Hensley looked up from her work. She gently scratched behind Tar's ears. The cub had actually fallen asleep against her, and met the matriarch's gaze with calm acceptance. "He's going to be fine," she said simply. "Just needs rest and maybe some proper medical attention. I've done what I can." The matriarch stopped 3 paces away. Her nostrils flared, reading the scene. Her cub, unharmed and peacefully sleeping. The human, unarmed and unafraid. The scent of medicine and care, not fear or aggression. What happened next would be discussed in xenoanthropology classes for decades. The massive Vorkai lowered herself to the ground. Completely. Her belly touched the floor, her powerful limbs stretched out. Her head bowed until her snout nearly touched the polished surface. It was a posture of absolute submission, of trust, of profound respect. One by one, the rest of the pack followed. 6 apex predators, each capable of destroying everything in the room, prostrated themselves before a single unarmed human who weighed less than any one of their legs. The silence was absolute. Lyra carefully stood, cradling the sleeping tar. She walked forward and gently placed him beside his mother. The matriarch immediately began grooming her cub, but her eyes never left the human. In those alien eyes, something remarkable passed. Recognition, gratitude, and a bond that transcended species. "Take care of him," Lyra said softly. "And maybe keep him away from whatever he was climbing." The matriarch made a sound, somewhere between a purr and a rumble, that the translation matrix couldn't quite capture. But every being in that room understood it perfectly. As the Vorkai pack carefully gathered their cub and departed, moving with surprising gentleness, the class remained frozen. Professor Lyra Hensley returned to her board, picked up her chalk, and resumed her lecture as if nothing extraordinary had happened. "As I was saying," she continued, writing on the holographic surface, "compassion isn't weakness. It's the bridge between fear and understanding. It's what makes us stronger together than we ever could be alone." A Calthian student raised a trembling claw. "Professor, how did you know they wouldn't kill you?" Lyra smiled, that quiet smile that had earned her reputation throughout the institute. "I didn't know. But sometimes you have to choose kindness over fear. That's what makes us human." In the back of the class, a luminary's inner light pulsed with newfound understanding. They were beginning to grasp why, despite humanity's relatively weak physical form and late arrival to the galactic stage, other species had learned to respect them. Humans didn't survive through superior strength or advanced technology alone. They survived and thrived because they possessed something far more powerful: the courage to be kind when everything in the universe said to be afraid. That evening, across the Galactic Institute's network, the story spread: a human professor, an injured predator cub, and the moment an entire pack bowed before her quiet kindness. It was the most human thing anyone had ever witnessed, and it changed everything.